If you're not already a customer on the Discord, meaning you don't see the downloads channel here, you're going to need to message your license key that you got from the email after you purchased RSM and send that in a private message to the RSM Verify bot at the top of the Discord. Once you do that, you'll have the downloads channel unlocked, and you'll see two little forums here, version 3.1 and the older version 2. We're going to use version 3.1. Currently, as of this video, it is in active development, so things might change. The GUI might change, the color scheme might change, who knows. But click here, and then click Download RSM FMX version 3.1. This is a zip file. You will copy that file to your dedicated server. Once you're on your dedicated server, make two folders, one for server 1 and one for server 2. I've got two File Explorer windows open here. We'll go into server 1 on the first on the left, and server 2 on the right. Copy that zip file you just downloaded, and in my case I'm going to double click it and then select it all and then just drag it back up. You can also just right click, copy, and then go back up one, back to the server 1 folder, and then paste. We're going to then run version 3.1.exe. It's going to prompt you for your license key, so go ahead and paste that license key in there and then click check. You will only have to do that once. Once you do that, you'll be brought to the main screen. We're going to start off by going to the Steam tab on the left and then clicking Install and Update Server. Now this may take a while because it's downloading the Rust server contents. Just above the Steam icon is the Config tab. We're going to go there. Now we're not going to go over any of this stuff, but basically the host name is what appears in the server list. You can edit that if you want to. For the sake of this video, we're just going to get the server set up so you can get that up and going. Scroll down to the server networking portion, and these three values on the left, leave those alone. Don't touch those. Don't change those. 99% of the time, it's going to be 0.0.0.0. The ones you do want to change are these here. If you're running multiple servers, these have to be unique. And in the app itself, they have to be unique from one another too. So you can't have, 28015 on two of these, and so on and so forth. Don't forget about this query port on the right. So server port, in my case, I'm already running servers on this network with these ports. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to change these to 38,000 through 38,003. So 001, 002, and 003. So those are our 4 ports for our first server. This app, public IP, this is for the Rust Plus mobile app, so you get notifications from your traps and things like that. Most of the time you're going to leave this blank, as the description says there. It will automatically detect what your public IP address is. So next, we're going to forward these ports through our local Windows firewall. So come down here to the Start menu. We're going to open up Command Prompt, because we're going to need that here in a little bit. But now we're going to go back to the Start menu and search for Windows Firewall with Advanced Security. Now, if you don't see this option and you only see Windows Defender Firewall, click Windows Defender Firewall. Go over here to the left to Advanced Settings. And here we go. Go to the Inbound Rules. We're going to make 2 rules. The first rule, if you click New Rule right here, click Port, go Next. TCP is the first one we're going to do. The next rule will select UDP, but for this, TCP. Come down here to specific local ports. We're going to do those ports that we set, 38,000, and then hyphen, which is just to the right of the 0 typically, and then 38,000. In our case, let's go to 38,010, just so we have some extra ones to work with in the future if you want more than just 2 servers. Because these servers here, for the 2 servers we're going to set up, we're going to be using ports 38,000 through 38,006, I believe, maybe 7. Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. Anyway, you can just copy this right now because we're going to use this here again in just a second. So select that and copy, go Next, allow the connection, Next, make sure all those are checked, Next, give it a name. I'm just going to mash on the keyboard. Then we're going to go New Rule, Port, Next, UDP, and then paste that same range in there. Next, allow, next, all 3, next, give it another name. And now we're ready to save this. So you click the little save button. So all those settings have now saved the configuration file for you. And now we're going to copy the contents of this folder to server 2. So if we copy this, paste it over there, and in the server 2 folder, run version 3.1 again. Go to the config tab again, scroll down. You'll see our ports from before are still there, but this is for server 2. Like I said, they have to be unique. So since we ended at 003, we're going to start at 004, and then 5, 6, and 7. Click save, and you're good to go in that portion. So click save on there. We've already forwarded these in the Windows firewall, so you don't have to do that portion again. Now this next step is the most crucial if you are trying to like self-host this and you are not paying for static IP and like dedicated server hosting network. If you have a router that you have to get through, you have to do something called port forwarding, which is allowing your computer that's running this service to be directly accessed from the internet. So this is going to be different for every single person because not everyone has the same router. Now before we go to that portion, we're going to go to command prompt. And I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can see. Go ahead and type ipconfig. All lower cases, no spaces. And here we go. So default gateway is your router. So most people's are going to be 1.1 at the end or 0.1 at the end. It's not going to be the case for everybody, but most cases. And then the IPv4 address is actually the local IP address of this machine on this network. Okay? We're going to need that later. But first, you're going to need this. In my case, even though it says 7.1, the way that I have it set up, it's actually 2.1. But let me explain something. So I have a Unify router. So my setup, what you're going to see is a guide through setting up through Unify. You are probably going to have something way different. Your ISP, your internet service provider, gave you a router. They may not have given you the credentials for the router, so you have to do some legwork on your own end and find out what the default login and password is for that. Some ISPs do change that information, so it's not going to be what's listed on the sticker that's on the router itself. You may have to call your ISP and ask them what that information is, because sometimes they change it for security purposes. And in some cases, they also will not give that information out. They'll have to have a technician come out, and that'll be a service charge more than likely. So they're going to charge you to send somebody out to sign to the router for you, and the technician will do your port forwarding for you. I've seen that in the past. It sucks. It is what it is. So knowing that, this next step is going to be different for everybody else. You're going to put this IP address for the default gateway in your browser, your internet browser. So in my case, I'm going to minimize this. We're going to open up a browser. We're going to go up here to 192.168. Like I said, for me, it's 2.1 for my case. And then I'm going to sign in. And for me, it's very simple. You go to settings, routing, and the port forwarding tab, and then click create entry. Now for everybody else, you're gonna have to just kind of go online or ask for help. We can help you on the Discord. I'm very knowledgeable myself. I'm Void on the Discord. And yeah, every way to get the port forwarding is gonna be different for everybody. I'm just trying to make that very clear. If you do this part wrong, you're opening yourself up to security risks and stuff like that if you don't know what you're doing. Anyway, once you're signed in and you're here at the port forwarding section, again, my stuff, the names for these things are probably going to be different. Yours might say external port and then the forwarded port. We're going to give this entry a name. I'm just going to spam something. It doesn't matter. But the WAN port, this is going to be that same range that we put in the firewall. So 38,000-38,010. You're going to copy this. In this case, for this particular video, this setup, we can also copy and paste it for the forwarding port. I'm not going to go over what that forwarding port means, but there's a way to make it to where the IP address, or so the ports that you're setting in RSM on that config section could technically be the same. Anyway, your router, again, might be different. Mine does allow me to select both TCP and UDP at once. I don't have to create a separate rule for TCP and then a separate rule for UDP. Some older routers, I'm experienced in that too. My older routers made it to where I had to do 2 separate rules. This is very annoying. But now here we go. The forwarded IP address. This is the local IP address, so the 7.2 that you saw in the command prompt for that dedicated server machine. I would put that in here, 192.168.7.2. And now you can click Add Entry, and boom, you are ready to start the server. So you come back here, and you click Start Server. And if you're using a procedural map, which is what we're using by default because we didn't change anything right here, the first time you boot up the server, it is going to take a while because your machine has to, procedurally generate the Rust map, because every time you do a wipe, like an actual forced wipe, where you change the seed and stuff like that, it's going to be generating a new map. So it does take quite a bit of time usually. But you're basically good to go. Now for people to connect to your server, it will take up to 24 hours for your server to actually show up on the Rust server list. So don't panic if you don't see it or people can't find it. That is the reason. There's nothing you can do to make that faster. That's just how it is. So what you can do to test though is get your public IP. So we can go to ipchicken.com in the browser. That's just one of many places you can go to get this, but your current IP address. The command to connect to the Rust server is this. Let me make this bigger. It's going to be connect space and then this public IP. So we'll select that. And then colon, which is the 2 vertical periods, and then the server port of the server you're trying to connect to. In our case, server 1 is 38,000. Server 2 is 38,004. So, and then you're good to go. Then your buddies can join instantly. They don't have to wait for it to populate in the server list. But yeah, that's basically all you need to know. You're up and going. Hopefully this tutorial helped you. And yeah, if you have any questions, ask on the Discord. There will be more tutorials to come, and we'll go from there.